Good morning and welcome to the Sunday service. This morning we're going to meditate few minutes. After the meditation we have Dhamma talk. Right now, Reverend Panyaloka is going to lead the Metta meditation.
Take a moment to relax yourself. Now we are going to practice the loving kindness meditation with guided thoughts. And at the end of meditation, you can practice silent meditation. Find your comfort zone wherever it is. Place your hands on your knees or on your lap. You can keep a straight back. It will help you to relax your mind and relax your thoughts. Try to be present with mindful thoughts. We can use our relaxation for our mindfulness meditation and loving kindness meditation. Only if you are comfortable, you can close your eyes. It will be also helpful for spreading loving kindness thoughts to the whole universe. Take a deep breath a few times. Breathe in and out. Breathe in and out. Beginning from yourself, practice loving kindness thoughts. Reflect on yourself and then spread loving kindness thoughts to your family members, friends, and to the whole universe. May my mind be filled with the thoughts of loving kindness, compassion, appreciative joy, and equanimity. May I be free from enmity. May I be free from ill will. May I be generous. May I be gentle. May I be relaxed. May I be happy and peaceful. May I be healthy. May my heart become soft. May my words be pleasing to others. May my actions be kind. May all that I see, hear, smell, taste, touch and think help me to cultivate loving kindness, compassion, appreciative joy, and equanimity. May all these experiences help me to cultivate thoughts of generosity and gentleness. May they all help me to relax. May they inspire friendly behavior. May these experiences be a source of peace and happiness. May they help me to be free from fear, tension, anxiety, worry, and restlessness. No matter where I go in the world, in any direction, may I greet people with happiness, peace, and friendliness. May I be protected in all directions from greed, anger, aversion, jealousy, and fear. Like this, you can reflect on yourself. Spread loving kindness thoughts to yourself. And then you can extend your loving kindness thoughts to your family members, friends, even for your enemies, and to the whole universe. May my beloved parents, teachers, Dharma teachers, brothers and sisters, friends, well-wishers, all those who are indifferent to me, be free from enmity, ill will, and grudge. May no harm come to them. May no difficulties come to them. May no problems come to them. May they always find fulfillment. Now you can spread loving kindness thoughts to the whole universe with your silent meditation. When you hear the bell, you can stop your meditation. May all beings in the universe be well, happy, and peaceful.
Our speaker, Sai Maharjan, is here right now. We are happy to see you, and so you can start your Dhamma talk right now.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Dhammapiti sukhang seti vipassannena cetasa. Ariyappvedite dhamme sadaramati pandita. The abbot of IBMC, Bhante Santi, and Venerable Sirs, their friends in Dhamma. It's always an honor to be here and spend some time talking about the Buddha's teaching. And as you heard me recite in Pali, it's one of the original language that Buddha used to teach his Dhamma about 2600 years ago. And it's a beautiful language. If you get a chance, you should learn a little bit. You will have direct access to the Buddha's teaching. And the line I mentioned, that comes from the Dhammapada, Dhammapiti Sukhang Seti. Those who drink or enjoys the teaching of the Buddha, they Sukhang Seti, they live well. They spend their life very well. Dhammapiti Sukhang Seti Vipassannena Cetasa. They also have delighted mind. Their mind is not burdened with a lot of negative thoughts or stressors. Ariyappvedite dhamme sadaramati pandita. Wise people enjoy the teachings of the enlightened ones. So I thought to share that because we all come here, and there are a few familiar faces every month when we come down and talk about the teaching. And we might wonder, even myself, why am I doing this? Why do I go and give a talk? And you might ask yourself, why am I driving to the temple every month or every week, depending on how often you come? And ask yourself, why am I doing this? And to me, for my personal reason, it is just like the Gatha says, I find joy in talking and also listening the Dhamma, reading the Dhamma. Whether it is a long discussion or a rigorous training that I went through when I was a monk, there is joy in it. And it is also opportunity for us as humans to transform from who we are to who we want to be. And that reminds me of a sutta in Anguttara Nikaya, the numerical teaching. Buddha talked about 3 types of patients. The patient, those who need medical attention, right? We all know. And in that, the collection of 3, he talks about there are some patient, one type of patient, regardless of they get proper food, proper medication, and proper nursing, they will never recover. It's a little hopeless, right? Regardless of what type of medication, treatment, medicine, food, and nursing, their patient, they will never recover. There are another group of patients. When regardless of they get proper food, medicine, or nursing, they will recover. So regardless if they get it or not, they will still recover. And there's a third group. This patient definitely needs proper food, proper medicine, and proper nursing in order to recover. So Buddha used this, he's good at logic, he's good at reasoning, and Buddha talked about because of this third person, he continued to teach the Dhamma. So there are people in the world who might become enlightened, who might never get enlightened, get into that path, whether they see the Buddha or not. whether they listen to Dhamma or not, whether they contemplate on teaching or not. There is almost like hopeless group, there is a very hopeful group, but there's one group, they need the Buddha's sight. They should see the Buddha, they should listen to the Dhamma, and they should be trained or taught to walk in the path of the Dhamma. And Buddha said, and at the end, because of this third person, I continue to teach, because there are people who need this direction, who need to hear what the right path is. And you can go on, what is the right path? And I'm sure you heard of it, and I always find it doesn't hurt to repeat some of these ideas, right? I grew up in Nepal. I was born in Nepal. I grew up in Sri Lanka. And in that journey, I'm here, been living for about 15 years now. In that journey, I always think about how I started as a young person and where I'm now. And that made me think of, how our life can evolve within short time. And that has to do with some karmic practices that we have done in our samsaric journey. I'm sure you can think about yourself, what you have, how you were when you started your life, as you remember, and where you are at now, and where you want to be. There are things people strive for. There are also things that we should be mindful of, which is impermanence in our life and trying to make the best out of this life. And for us, those who come to temple, whether you come here to learn or teach, there should be some wisdom we continue to spark by exploring, by contemplating on the Buddha's teaching. So in Buddha's teaching, it's very simple, it's very numerical when you think of. He talked about eightfold paths. It's commonly known. Maybe some of you heard more about one of them, which is the mindfulness, which is 1 out of 8. So it's not complete without the rest. It starts with samadhi, right? Samadhi, it's translated as right understanding or right view, because that's how we see the world. And right view is the view of or the understanding of 4 noble paths. We have heard of it. What does it mean? And is it a mystical teaching? Is it a mysterious teaching? Well, Buddha explained, you don't need to look out to find what is this 4 noble paths. It is within us. So if you think of our own body, I recently turned 40, so I can tell you, how impermanence makes you feel when you hit 40. And now you notice the changes. So Buddha used within this 5 to 6 feet tall body, you can find the 4 noble truths. The first one is suffering or dukkha. Now, suffering is a strong term when you use it in English. If you look at Pali, the word dukkha is the opposite of sukha. And the word is originated, ka means it's the axle, the nail in the axle. If you think of a cartwheel and there's axle, right, you put pin to hold the wheel in place. So when you put it too tight, it's called dukkha. Now it's too tight, it causes friction. That's why it's called dukkha. And when you put it perfect in a perfect tightness, it's called sukha. It's perfect. It does not cause any friction. So think of that as how dissatisfaction starts. So dukkha is dissatisfaction of even the happiest moment. Not only when you are sick, when you lose something, when you depart from a loved one, you have lived with somebody you don't like. That's not only dukkha. Dukkha is when there is dissatisfaction. You don't like how this experience unfolds. That is dukkha. And that is a truth. That is a truth about human condition. And that is not eternal truth. It's not unchanged. It will continue to change. So the truth that caused dissatisfaction, and there is a reason for it. We experience dukkha. We are dissatisfied with certain experience. Think of people, those who go through, let's say, the quick example I can think of is some people like extremely dangerous sport, right? Whether it is in Nepal, we have a lot of heights, so people do mountain climbing or jumping off the cliff or paragliding. Those experiences you might never want to try because that's dukkha, right? It doesn't make you feel good. Some people live off that experience. So That's where you see the cause of dukkha is how you perceive that experience. And our perception is derived by what you want. Either we like it so much, we want them to last forever. Either we don't like them at all, we never want to experience it. Or we are in neutral. So that's where the cause, the dukkha is, the root is our desire about that experience, our desire about our existence. That's the second truth. And the third one is, well, when you know what causes this dukkha, you can eliminate it by letting go. That's the result which we call the nibbana, the free from or appeasement of these ongoing dissatisfaction and conflict between satisfaction and dissatisfaction. That is the solution to it. That's nibbana. And how do you get there? There's a path. There's an eightfold path. That's where the first one. So when you understand this dukkha, samudaya, nirodha, magga, that is called right understanding. And you don't need to go out to look for where is this Four Noble Truth. It's in us. When you experience, whether it is anger, whether it is strong joy, you can use your mindfulness, you can use your presence to understand, oh, there is an experience which could turn into dukkha, and if I apply, I want to hold on to it, that is the cause of dukkha. If I let go, that is the free from dukkha, and that means I need to continue, stay in this path. So every experience, every change in our life can tie back to Four Noble Truth. And that's the first understanding. And I want to end with the second one, so we can talk the rest in other meetings. The second one is Samma Sankappa. That is right concept or right thought. And the opposite of right thought would be wrong thoughts, right? The Miccha Sankappa. And the three of them that we all need to be mindful of. One of them is Kama Sankappa, when you have this desire thought, constantly wanting or wanting to have more, wanting to possess more, wanting to be all kind of needs, the thoughts that ties to wanting. So that is the first one. And the second one is Vyapada Sankappa, the thought of violence or thought of aversion. That's a Vyapada. It's worse than hatred. So aversion is that strong wish, strong desire that someone else get into trouble or someone else be in pain. So that's aversion, the thought of aversion. And Hingsa Sankappa, the thought of violence. So those are the opposite of right thought, the wrong thoughts. The first one may be a little easy, but also ties with how people engage in practices. Sometimes we come to temple for different reasons. Sometimes we practice teaching, whether it is Buddhism or any other religion, you have a different purpose, not pure desire or pure wish to learn. There are some good desires. I'm a little cautious to use the word desire, which is important. There was a time, even before the Buddha was Buddha, even before he was in the path to become the Buddha. There's a story, goes far, millions of years back before the Buddha's life. He was traveling with his mother in a voyage, and a storm hit. The ship was about to sink, and it eventually sank. And the future Buddha, the young man, was traveling with the mother. He carried her and swam across the ocean and brought her to the shore. And the mother gave her this blessing, may you become a Buddha in the future. That was the first time he heard the word Buddha. And he started looking into it. What is this Buddha? What is this Buddhahood? And long story, he continued to search, find a meaning, and he got into that journey. And that's what we now talk about, the Sakyamuni Buddha. So the desire is very powerful. That wish to become the Buddha kept him in that journey. But there are some other desires not very helpful, and that can turn into some strong identity, strong possession, which will be difficult to let go when time comes. That's the one wrong thought we need to fight with. The second one is Vyapada Sankappa. That's what I want to focus a little bit more, which will help with the third one. People, we all have emotions, we all have feelings. There are people we like, there are people we don't like. and that leads to dukkha. Now, in Buddhism, when you look at how mind is explained, we start with the simple liking and disliking, right? So I want you to think, how when you like and dislike, that's a fundamental, very, very fundamental consciousness. It doesn't create strong karma. From disliking, it can lead to a little bit of anger, right? You don't like somebody, now you have to interact with the person or thing. It can turn into a little bit of anger. Now you are likely to do something that can cause or create karma. So I want you to think about how disliking can turn into an anger. And when you are angry, now it turns into hatred. So the anger is temporary. You might get angry at something or somebody, and if you did something or you managed to just do some kind of relaxing or find some technique to calm down your anger, those emotions, you might never have that again. You might think about it. Actually, it's not healthy. Even think about your anger. That causes very harmful, physical damage to your heart. So when you let go of that anger, it might never come back. But sometimes people have a hard time letting go. That turn into hatred. Now, hatred it's more powerful than anger, because even in the absence of the person or thing that created anger, continue to be there. It's like the good example, the American example would be, you have your heater or water heater. There is a little, what do you call the pilot or the spark? It's always there, right? It's just a matter of the condition. It will kick in and start to boil. So it's always burning. That's hatred. That's dangerous. And that can lead to, in many stories in the Buddha's time, Buddha even warned many times, be careful with your mind. Because once you dislike, it turns into anger. And when it turns into hatred, it goes beyond this life. It will follow you. And classic example, the Buddha's own brother-in-law, Devadatta. Buddha's previous, when he was married to Yasodhara's brother was Devadatta. And he followed the Buddha many lives, not because he wanted to become enlightened, but he hated the Buddha. And hatred is so powerful, it kept him all the way until the last life, the Buddha's last life, which is the Buddha himself, and tried to murder him 3 times. Himself sent a contract and sent an angry elephant and tried to kill himself, rolling a rock on the Buddha. So that is hatred. Very, very powerful, very, very strong consciousness that continues life upon life. And worse than that is aversion. So that's the wrong thought, one of the wrong thoughts. Aversion is almost, think of, you have a piece of cloth. If it is dirty, it is stained, you can wash it, right? You can just put some strong chemical and wash it and clean it good. But when you have a stain that's like a moldy stain, you cannot wash it off. It stays no matter how hard you try, no matter what kind of chemical you use. The only way to do is to cut it off and remove it. So that is aversion in our mind. And even having a thought of aversion can create karma. I hope that helps you to understand we have to be careful what we like, dislike, and be careful when you are angry, and be careful that does not translate into hatred. And aversion is worse. Aversion itself can generate unwholesome karma. And of course, some outcome of aversion or hatred would be you hurt the person. That's another third wrong thought, right? The thought of violence. You take action to hurt that other individual. And hatred never comes from the hurting somebody, or violence never comes from a good place. People justify it's self-defense. It's a way to protect myself. Violence always has to. I'm not saying in the situation, yes, you might do in the name of self-defense. That's a legal term. You can talk about with the lawyers. From the spiritual, from the karmic perspective, violence always has to come with hatred. You have to have some kind of hatred there to act on that, to act violently So the root of violence is always hatred, nothing else. You cannot act violently and say, I act like, think of like parenting. People, those who physically punish children or hurt parents, like they might say, oh, I'm just trying to teach child a lesson or put them in the right path. Well, there are other ways to do it. If you acted physically, you punish or you hurt, you engage in violence, that never can be justified as act of kindness. So what do we do? So I don't want you to think like, oh man, this guy is all negative and hatred. I want you to take away a couple good lessons that Buddha gave. How do we take care of this strong? How do we cultivate samma sankappa, the right thought? Buddha gave some examples, some analogy. We practice loving kindness, and Bante Panyaloka just led loving kindness. It's easy to sit down, close your eyes in a quiet temple to practice loving kindness. I want to challenge you. Can you try to do that in your workspace? When somebody is demanding your attention or putting more work in your load, or when your family is chaotic, everybody's going nuts, and you try to have that calm and loving kindness toward yourself, toward your family. Now, if you can do that, I bow you. Now, that's the bodhisattva we were looking for. That's what we're trying to bring. Sometimes it's hard, right? We start with like, may I be well, may I be happy, my family, friends, all be happy, and be impartial. So when you practice loving kindness, I don't think it's a good way or proper way to practice when you show that partiality. I share my loving kindness with this many people, this group of people, not them. That is partiality. That is not a proper way of practicing loving kindness. It should be everybody. And your loving kindness is helping yourself and helping others to see the change. What do you do when it is really hard? You might ask this question later, but I'll answer early on. So what do you do when you have somebody or some people extremely hard to show that loving kindness? But the two solutions, I'll give you first one. This is from the Buddha's teaching. The first one Buddha gave is, think about, if you believe in previous life, right? I believe in one. We've lived many, many lives. And Buddha has given an analogy. If you just collect, how many times you have born, he asks, like, count the sands, the grain of the sands all around the ocean, and you get the number, your number of heads that you lost, or that means that how many times you're born as human would be countless. So many, many lives we spend, and we continue to evolve. So if you have spent that many lives in previous life, when you have trouble forgiving or letting go of certain strong feelings toward other people, think of that person must have been your mother or a father or a brother or a wife or a husband in one of those lives. And I'm not going to teach you to how to find out if that is true or not. The solution is, think of that person must have been someone you related to. And that helps you to practice loving kindness toward those individuals. So that's one way. The other way to do is, this is in actually Dhammapada Gatha, when you have hard time letting go of strong feelings or anger towards certain individual, think about death. What happens in the time that you are about to pass away, when you're about to die? Would you be proud of yourself having that grudge or anger toward these individuals? So that should help to bring that peace, bring that calmness, and let go of that strong feeling toward individuals. So that's helpful. And this is another, like, I thought about this activity. I do this in my classes, but I want to do this activity with you. So if you're good with math, you don't need your phone. If you don't have your phone, you can use I don't know if you have paper pencil. So let's do a quick math, okay? This is the Buddha's lesson from Ayusutta. He explains. I'll do it like an activity. So if you can, you know your age, right? Now I want you to think about, how long do you plan to live? Your guesstimate. How long do you think you have? Let's take your phones out. Let's see if you can do quick math. So to calculate your age minus the expectation. So how long do you plan to live? So if you can't, please go ahead and take your phone out and see quickly, do the math. You don't need to share. I'm not going to ask you to share. But I want you to know one thing today. John is doing okay. So if you are, like, I'll tell you mine. I'm 40, right? If I want to live until 75, I always think of 76. That's an odd number, weird number to think of. That means I have 36 more years to live, right? And now I want you to multiply. So whatever number you got, what is left, multiply that by 12. Let's do it. I want you to know, because I want you to leave today with like some inspiration. Like, man, what do I do with this, right? So do your math. So you got your number. Mine is 36. So I'm going to do mine. $36 times 12. Okay, and it's already scary. I got only 432 months left. And now you got the number. You can go back. Let's put back your year. That is 36. And multiply that 36 by, not 36, whatever number you have, your remaining years, multiply that by 365. It gets weirder. That is the number of days you have left. And if I were to live another 36 years, I have about 13,140 days left. And here's the another way to really think about. I'm going to divide that days by 1/3. That is about 0.33. Actually, I should do. So 36 times 365 divided by, I'm lost. So if you have to do the dividing, so divide that, take out 1/4, right? One third. So divide by 3, yeah, divide by 3. Oh yeah, I have to minus that. So roughly I have about 9,000 days that I'm awake. And if I were to live 36 more years, why I took out 1/3? Well, that time I'll be spending sleeping, right? If you sleep 8 hours a day, or roughly somewhere that time, I didn't even count other non-essential activities. Using bathroom, going shower, driving 2 hours up and down, that doesn't consider very meaningful, right? How many trips we do? If you were from Nepal, good luck. 24 hours in the flight, back and forth, that trip. So there are a lot of times we spend that doesn't consider, that's not very essential. We have to do them, we have to sleep so we can stay healthy. So I have about 9,000 days, roughly 9,000 days left. Days, not months, not even weeks, 9,000 days left. It's not that far. And in that sutta, it's very funny how Buddha explained. He talked about, he also goes beyond. He said, you have only, so that total would be 13,000. So I have about 13,000 breakfast, 13,000 lunch, and 13,000 dinner left, right? And maybe 36 Christmas. So you can play a lot along that number. And he's very funny in that analogy. He says, you might have a night, you got upset with your partner, your family, and you skip the dinner. Guess what? You have one less. You never have that dinner next day because you just missed it. And you might have been sick for the day. Guess what? You missed that breakfast. You'll never have that one again. So I hope it's not scary. Like when you saw your number, I hope you're not like, I'm not going to listen to this guy again because he scared the crap out of me. I want you to think about, that's the time we have. And that's where we want to let go of those strong feelings. That's what I want to connect. Like it's easy to be very self-centered, like almost like a children, right? Very egocentric. Think about like, he hurt me, right? he hurt me, he yelled at me. That strong, strong thoughts really affect us, and it continued to fester. It continued to get worse. And at the time of death, and you think about, 13,000 days, not a lot. And those feelings, and there are a lot of examples you can think of. Is it really hurting you, or that you how is it that's how you perceived it? You thought that was hurtful, you interpreted that as hurtful. And regardless of whether it is hurtful or not, what is the best practice? The best practice would be letting it go and being mindful of having this right thought is very important, because that's how you are Buddhist. And once you have that understanding, and I'll tell you, I learned that Ayur Sutta so many years ago. I was young, I was very young. We were reading a bunch of suttas, and I found that, and it stuck with me. I do the calculation. The bad news is it number never went up. I just kept going lesser and lesser days left. And yes, it should be scary. It also makes me think about, now, do I really want to spend time doing these other things when I'm losing my days every day? It makes more effortful, it makes more consciousness. And I learned this new concept called threshold concept. Once you know something, it changed the way you live, it changed the way you perceive these relationship activities yourself. So that is the second right thought. The first one, you're having right view. The second one is right thought. It takes little work. Nothing comes for free. It takes little work to be in that path. And we can talk about the rest in next meeting, but I want you to leave today, have that mindset. When you come back next month, you will have 30 days less. So by that 30 days less, have you done anything better for yourself? Have you done anything that's meaningful for yourself? At the time when you're about to leave this world, you can leave peacefully. And if possible, you never return. So that is our goal, right? So I hope that was helpful, and I'll be happy to answer or hear any thoughts or comments. Thank you.
He's asking whether I calculate. I say no. Maybe I have 30 days. Yes, any question? Yes.
I think you've already talked, like always. Can you touch again on aversion, just on the clear? Can you give an example? Because you mentioned the shirt dirty is stained, right? You can wash it, so you have to cut it out. So the fact that's cut out, it's that action, thoughts, what exactly is cut out?
It's the so replacement for aversion would be loving kindness, the compassion. And that's hard because we always practice loving kindness with partiality. When like you have strong feeling toward certain individual, even you practice loving kindness. And that's not just, when I say practice, it's not just sitting down and saying may they be well happy, but also action, right? Do you show that kind action toward the person? And also speech, do you use kind words toward that individual? And when it is so strong beyond hatred, if it is aversion, you constantly wish ill wish, right? You constantly have the ill wish for that people. You will know, because you are practicing with partiality. You always exclude, or when you think of that person, immediately makes your blood, little pump more, or just feel strong reaction. That is an indication you still have not let go. And in order to let go, that's why I gave example. You think of your death. Think of may have been a relationship in the past. It will eventually become less and less affecting, and then you may have more like a impartial loving kindness toward those individuals. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
I'm very grateful for your talk. When I was little, I would look at the people that know stuff, and I would think, oh, they're all set. And of course, I wanted to get it myself, right? And I did get some relief. And a little bit of Dhamma goes a long way. People start to have a blessed life, things are going easier, etc. One thing I noticed when I was growing up is that very, very great practitioners, they were still practicing. When I was little, I didn't think you'd have to do this anymore. Okay? But I thought, oh, that's because they're teaching you, they're setting an example. But I'm wondering, in the spirit of all of this, like you said in the beginning of your talk today, we could say this again. And I agree, we could say this again and again and again as our lifestyle. Can you reach into the canon and find some support for the concept that practicing, living a disciplined life, and having a giving personality to others is always useful, no matter what the attainment of the person?
Yes. Yes. Thank you for sharing.
I mean, just something in the canon supports that.
Can you repeat the question?
Oh,
Yes.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry, I'm very worried. That is, if you can reach into the canon and find support for the concept that practice, discipline in life, and having a giving nature is never to be given up. It's always useful, even to
Yes.
accomplish
Yes. I see. Thank you for rephrasing that question.
inspired.
Yes. Well, I'll tell a simple story that hopefully answers your question. It's the practice, those three part, right? Dana, Sila, Bhavana. So the generosity, having discipline, practicing moralities, and concentration is the foundation of this teaching, the Buddha's teaching. And even, it never goes wasted. I think it's always useful. Even somebody who is well versed or well taught is Buddha himself, when he was sick, he invited a monk named Girimananda. And so think of, the Buddha himself, he's feeling unwell. He invited Girimananda Bhante and told him, tell me the 10 principles that I've taught you. And as Girimananda Bhante started to recite those 10 principles, one after another, anicca, impermanence, and how people become sick, those Girimananda Sutta, when he was reciting, the Buddha's ailment subsided. So Buddha himself taught Girimananda these 10 principles, but Girimananda Bhante was reciting to the Buddha, and it helped him to feel less physical ailment. Mentally, he is free from suffering. Physically, he also felt less. And same thing is true about Moggallana Bhante. So there are suttas, it's canon, and the teaching, Girimananda, Moggallana Sutta, those are examples. Even the Blessed One still enjoyed the teachings of the Dhamma. So it never is an overdue. Yes, Russell.
Yes, thank you for the talk. I want some practical advice. I know many people who are kind of getting older or kind of maybe about to pass, their health is no good, and you talk to them, and then they say, I haven't done everything that I wanted to do, or they have regrets. And I'm wondering, basically, if people know that their days are numbered, and they tell you that, or you know that, or you both know that, say you were visiting someone, a husband or family member or friend, I wonder how to console them without being tacky and just, things. What you want to say? Maybe, I'm not going to say, oh yeah, everything's better in heaven. I'm just wondering how you actually speak to people who know their days are numbered. Calculation maybe or not having.
Yeah.
Anyway, they know their days are numbered. So how do you speak with people? Because a lot of times,
Yeah, I think, well, those are not easy conversations, right? Especially when you have emotional attachment. If that person is your parents or family member, sibling, it will be hard to say anything that's meaningful. They might reject or feel like more betrayed, like what are you talking about? But if from the Dhamma perspective, I don't think age is equal to how much good you have done. That's our way of looking at age. We don't look at the age as, oh, you have lived 80 years, so you must have lived very meaningful life. That is not the case. From the Dhamma perspective, it's a moment. Every moment of that thinking about being connected to reality, being connected to the truth, which is impermanent of life, right? If somebody is open to, even didn't like it, it's very important that let them help. You know, you can fight. There's actually one story, I don't remember, probably from Ajahn Chah's teaching, I have read this story. This monk was trying really hard to recover, got sick, trying really hard to not get sick, and putting a lot of effort made him more sick. And Ajahn Chah, Bante went and told him, like, I will give you permission to die. So Bante told that, and it shocked the Bante that the monk who was sick, he didn't like it. Like, what are you talking about? I'm trying to get better, and you asking me to, or giving permission to die. It helped that monk eventually understand, oh, so I'm putting too much effort to reverse what is naturally occurring. So it helped him to not try too hard and be himself. So that's an example. And in Buddha's the very first gatha in Dhammapada Manopubangma Dhamma, the second gatha is Manopubangma Dhamma Manoseta Manomaya Manasache Pasannena Bhasatiwa Karotiwa. Right? Somebody with the delighted mind. Tatonang dukkhaman tatonang sukha anveti. So when you do something with delighted mind and with more understanding, there was I forgot the name, the child who was sick, born sick, long story, born sick, parents gave up, no try, no cure, left, actually abandoned outside, and he just happened to see the Buddha's sight. And that delighted him. So it's not about how long you live, but more these kind of moments. I think last time when you talked, Ananda mentioned about the book of merits. And karma, in karma wise, it doesn't need to be a long-term karma you did so you end up in a good place. And I like to tell people, if you're born as human, you already are above a lot of possible lower lives. To be born as human means you have surpassed all the miserable lives possible. Now, what happens next is up to this life, right? This is the determining stage. You choose something even at the end of the life, last stage. I have been to funeral, not funeral, like there was one time I went to Irvine. This person was 95 years old, very happy, but couldn't move, last breath. Happy because that's how he perceived. He didn't want to cremate. He offered his body to the hospital. So he did what he wanted in his life. And that day we did a brief chanting. Mostly he spoke about, barely he could say some of the things he's done. He was reflecting on what he did. And that last thoughts we count. That's very important. I think I've talked about the karma. The proximate karma is very powerful. Even for a short time, you spend talking about it, you spend even loving kindness or doing little. So the wish for Buddhists to die is die mindfully. So that's like we all should have wished for. Die when you are aware of, when you are, accepting, not fighting too hard. So that the person in 95, I drove back to Morna Valley. Before I reached Morna Valley, the person passed away. So I had to drive back again to Irvine. So I think in nutshell, it's not the number of years that you lived, but more moments of time that you feel you did something that's satisfying, and that you practice something that's meaningful. And that definitely helps to not fight too hard. Thank you, Russell.
Because husbands work, situation.
Uh-huh.
They try to make the person comfortable and clean and this and that, but they're not going to over try to sustain people.
To keep it longer, yes.
And they have a certain philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they kind of accept the journey and allow people to shut down, but in a dignified way.
Mm-hmm.
Not like force feeding people and
I see. Yeah, it's very, yeah, that goes with the how Buddhists we also know that there's sometimes people have to make hard decisions, and those moments you really want to think of the intention, right? I think Ben and I had a conversation about some similar situation. It's more like your intention for that, for the moment, right? You're not trying to force somebody to die versus you're trying to help them live the remaining moment more peacefully and more mindfully. Thank you for very thoughtful questions and attending.
All right, thank you, Sai. I have no question. I will ask later.
You want me to do the math?
All right, we've done the page 4 and page 6.
Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa
Buddham
Saranam Gacchami Dhammam Saranam Gacchami Sangham Saranam Gacchami. Sentience beings are numerous. I vow
to save them all. Deluded passions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them all. Dhamma ways are limitless. I vow to study them all. Buddha's faith is supreme. I vow to attain it. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the taste of fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and the sick find love free. thank you, Sai. Announcement. Next Sunday, Subodha is going to give the talk. I'm not going to be here next Sunday. Tomorrow I'm going back to Sri Lanka because my mother was sick. A little bit seriously. It's almost 95, so I have to see her. Once I'm away, so I hope everything is going to be here well. I will announce, I will promote Ratana Sara is going to be an active person once I'm not here. He's going to be an active adult. Don't be confused, Ratana Sara. It's okay, just only 1 month. Give power to work here, everything under the guidance with Venerable Suman. Suman is my students living in the Naheim. So the reason he knows everything better than me right now. He's doing everything, activities, all kind of work here, everything, management, financially, everything, repairs, everything, he's going to do it. So I'll be here the December 2nd week. I hope everything will be okay there and here both. So hope to see you within 1 month. And again, thank you for everything. Thank you, Sai. Thank you for everybody. By the power of the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha, you will be well, happy, and peaceful. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.